Hi, it's Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video I'm going to take a look at a budget banger of a case. This is the Phanteks G370A. As you can see here in black, there's also a white version available should you wish to. It comes pre-installed with three 120mm silent fans and retails for $54.99 here in the UK. Depending where you're getting it, potentially you might have to pay some postage. At the moment it does seem, I think overclockers were the cheapest one to go. I think it's $3.99 postage. So yeah, still under £60 for what appears to be a rather solid and well-constructed case. So today on the video we're going to go through, do a little bit of a teardown, have a bit of a walk through the case, see what it's all about, and then at the end of the video hopefully you'll be able to make up your mind whether or not this is going to be suitable for your next PC build, be it a budget one, be it a high-end one, or whatever. This case pretty much ticks most of the boxes for kind of all kinds of builds. So if you're just looking to put together a budget flip PC, get this price, can't go too far wrong with the fans included. Or even if you want to build a workstation or you want to put some decent cooling in here, there's plenty of room to do all that kind of stuff. So really it's going to be down to you and what you decide to do with it. So let's start off with the design of the case. So it's pretty typical of the Phanteks style design. So the front is a mesh grille which has a slight angle to it, so it's actually protruding more so at the bottom than it is at the top, so slightly tapered look there. A nice fine mesh. This also acts as dust filtration. There's no separate dust filtration. The fans are actually staggered a little bit further back as well, so they're a little bit further away, so that obviously is going to be better for turbulence and airflow and also for noise. Probably not fine enough for some of the smaller dust particles, so if you are in an area or if this is going to be put into a place where there's lots of very fine dust, then potentially you might want to look elsewhere for one that has a nylon mesh dust filter. This sadly doesn't. This is the only thing we've got on the front there. The front panel is removed relatively easily. There's a grab handle on the bottom, so all it requires is a sharp tug, and the front panel releases pretty easily. You can see it's a pretty open mesh there, which is nice to see. And then behind it, we are greeted with these three 120mm ARGB PWM fans. Now the fans are actually a little bit unusual in terms of actually a couple of ways. First of all, where they're actually physically mounted. So they've actually mounted the fans a little bit lower. 2.5 of the fans actually serve the inside of the case. The lower half of the fan actually serves the PSU basement, which is pretty much entirely sealed. So only really useful for possibly cooling hard drives. That would be if there was a mount to put the hard drives in. There isn't in this case. So yeah, I'm not too sure why that is. I'm thinking some of it comes down to if you want to put a 360mm radiator in here, if the fans came up a little bit higher, you may struggle to do that. So I think they've left this little gap here at the top so you can put your radiator a little bit further forward. A little bit of an unusual design, and also is a little bit limiting. You can only put 120mm fans in the front. Fortunately, this has come with some really good ones straight out of the box, so you're not going to be really hunting around to change the fans out anytime soon. At least I don't think you will. The fans actually move a decent amount of air and at pretty decent noise levels. Maximum RPM of these, only 1400 RPM, which actually was surprising. Considering the amount of air they're moving, I thought they were higher RPM. When it comes to the low RPMs, it's a little bit on the strange side. So they will actually go down to around about 350, 400 RPM, at which point essentially they're kind of useless. They're not really moving any air at all. But if you then increase the PWM range, they don't really kick back in until it gets to somewhere around about sort of 35 to 40%, which is a little bit on the strange side. So if you do set these in your BIOS to be quite a low level to keep noise down, then potentially when you turn the PC on, it might not actually kick in until the CPU gets a little bit warmer. So do bear that in mind. The kind of official PWM range is, I would say, between 700 and 1400 RPM. So yeah, do be wary of that. I was flicking through a couple of times thinking, well, they were spinning at 400 RPM just now. So you can go from 700 down to 400, but when you're at 400, you have to go up to 700 to get it to actually spin. So yeah, just bear that in mind. When it comes to the addressable RGB, it's using Phanteks' usual JST type connection, which does actually terminate at the very end to a 5-pin 3V ARGB connector, standard type of stuff. And also for the actual fan speeds and fans controls, it's a normal 4-pin PWM, so you've got no issues there. The fans are all daisy chained together, so you only have 2 wires, one for the ARGB, one for the PWM, even though you have got 3 fans. So it's nice to see that even on a more budget orientated case, you have got daisy chain fans included straight out of the box. So let's move around to the side of the case. So you've got a tempered glass side panel, and bizarrely, glass generally tends to be more expensive than metal, as a general rule of thumb. So it seems a little bit strange that they've chosen to go with a full-sided tempered glass side panel when it only really needs to come up to about here. They could have done that as metal. It's kind of nice to see, and it is somewhat refreshing. Just means there's just a little bit more to clean should you need to. The actual side panels are held on with kind of just push pins, so there's a little finger grip at the back, so get your finger into there and pull it forward, and it pops out, and it is got a little bit of a ledge on the bottom, so you can see there on the back where the glass is just coloured there, so to cover up the lack of metal at the bottom here. I should mention as well, the tempered glass is completely transparent, so there's no tint to it at all on the black model, and I'm assuming, I haven't seen the white one, but I'm imagining it's going to be exactly the same deal. Very rarely do you get tinted panels on a white case. So with this in view, we can see what's going on here. So this has support for up to E80X motherboards, or the larger EEI, EB, or whatever they are, so just the larger motherboard. So if you do want to make some kind of workstation type PC out of this, you certainly can do. We will support ATX, micro ATX and ITX should you wish to install one. You've got the power supply basement section, which isn't entirely enclosed, which again I think is a little bit strange, so there's no real reason to have this opening, but it's there. The metal is a little bit on the flimsy side. It's not your typical kind of Phanteks quality. There's a little bit on the flimsy side, but yeah, it's adequate, I would say, personally. So the actual standoffs have actually been pre-installed in the case already for the typical 9-pin ATX setup. And also the center pin is one which is slightly recessed, so it's got that little kind of nodule on there, so it locates your motherboard, which is nice to see. You've also got some pass-throughs, and actually you've got a really handy one. So towards the front there, you've got the larger one there, so you can pass through your power cables for your GPU, so they're going to be nicely routed to keep things nice and cable managed. You've got some pass-throughs at the bottom there for things like your USBs, front panel, etc. And also on the side, you've got some pass-throughs. No rubber grommets in this. I don't really think you'd see them at this sort of price point, possibly. And also at the top, you've also got some massive cutouts there. Potentially if you get the white version, that might be a little bit problematic because white ones will show up kind of the holes, whereas with the darker case, obviously that is going to kind of blend into the background, so I wouldn't be too concerned there. But certainly it is nice to see those really big pass-throughs, especially for the EPS cables, which are notoriously difficult to pass through at times. You also got a pretty significant amount of clearance between the top of the motherboard and also the top of the case, so installing up to a 360mm radiator in here shouldn't be any problems whatsoever. If you decide to not go with water cooling, you want to go with air cooling, you can fit in here around about 165 to 170mm CPU coolers, depending slightly on your motherboard. So yeah, that is going to be absolutely fine for the majority of CPU coolers on the market. The layout in here is absolutely fine. You've got some nice ventilation on the back, which we'll take a closer look at. The top section, very similar as well. Also, there is a removable magnetic filter. Also, a nice feature to see at this kind of price point is there is a built-in GPU support bracket. It's a very basic affair, just a piece of bent metal with a bit of rubber over the top to protect it from shorting out. 2 screws on the back to reduce or raise the height of there, should you need to. So yeah, nice to see that that is included straight away. Something else as well, if you're considering putting radiators in the front, basically you kind of can't. Smaller 240s you can probably get away with, but they've actually chopped the metal in only maybe 10mm behind the fan there. So you can't really put any radiators in the front, which is a little bit of a shame. I know some people do prefer to put rads in the front. Me personally, I prefer them in the top, but each to their own. Just wanted to make you aware of that. When it comes to the fans, you can see the 3 fans are there, pre-installed, they're pre-wired, etc. Very nice fans, very quiet as well in operation. And actually, let's head over to our noise tests now. Unfortunately, at the moment here in the UK, we have got some absolutely terrible weather. It's either raining, windy, or all of the above. So the noise floor in this room isn't particularly good, but hopefully you can hear the tonality of the fans at their respective fan speeds. So we've got 100% first, 75%, 50%, then 25%. The 25% one I would also include in the kind of 40% one because it's kind of the same thing because of that RPM floor that we talked about a little bit earlier. So let's take a little listen to that now and you can see how they sound. So moving around to the back of the case, now this is where it starts to somewhat fall apart, figuratively and physically. So the back panel section, the rear punch outs or removable PCI Express blanking plates aren't removable. They're those god-awful ones that you have to fold out, so make sure you fold out the ones you need to before you install your motherboard, otherwise potentially you could knock off capacitors or surface mounted diodes on your motherboard, so do be aware of that. They're not great, and they're actually not that easy to take out either. So yeah. Anyway, it is what it is. It is a cheap case, so what can you do? Also, there's a plastic cover here. So this cover on the side is just a piece of almost looks like 3D printed plastic. Not very nice, not very secure. There's no screw holes or anything to actually put in place, so you kind of just have to sort of latch it in and press the plastic in. It doesn't really, oh, there we go. It doesn't really want to securely lock in. It's a very minor thing. Realistically, most people are going to put their computer bits in and never touch this case again. If you're someone who likes to maybe swap out your graphics cards, swap around PCI Express cards, capture cards, that sort of thing, then this might all be a little bit too much for you, so you might want to spend a little bit more money. But this is designed to be a budget case, so we do have to take those things into consideration. Normal ATX size power supply basement, you can put a power supply in there as big as you want. It's basically completely empty in the bottom, so if you've got one of those older power supplies which are absolutely huge, no problems at all, smaller ones will be absolutely fine as well. All the sections here which have got cutouts for the I/O section, it's absolutely fine, no sharp edges or anything. Also, you've got space here for a 120mm fan with a little bit of vertical maneuverability, so you can raise it up about 1 inch. Not a great deal, but certainly better than nothing. And that takes us then around to the back of the case. So the back of the case, very simple, flat design, loads of cable management room in here. And to take the side panel off, again, same as the front panel. There's a little indent in the back here, so just pop it out and it's on those kind of pogo pins. The back panel is a little bit on the flimsy side, but it's nothing too much to worry about. So looking in the back here, this is a traditional ATX layout, so there's no real surprises here, other than the fact that there's nowhere really to put a 3.5 inch drive. Now you can actually mount them to the bottom of the case from what I can see. There are some holes there, but again, 3.5 inch drives are kind of dying off a little bit now, so I wouldn't be too concerned. There is a mount section here, which is removable. There's a screw on there. You can put two 2.5 inch drives on here, stacked on top of each other. So for external storage, I think that's probably fine. SSDs, maybe mechanical drives if you wish to. Lots of area to actually do cable management and actually pass cables through, which is always helpful, especially for beginner builders or even experienced builders, really, just to make life a little bit easier. And wherever there is a kind of punch out or hole, they've also done it so there's actually little slits in there so you can put cable ties through them, which is a nice touch. And also you've got these metal bend out bits so you can secure your cables in place. So yeah, it's pretty good round here. Lots of cable management options, and also there's a decent amount of depth, about 1 inch there of cable management. So even if you've got a power supply with a particularly kind of bulky sheath around the cables, it's going to be fine. Can't see any problems with that at all. When it comes to the front panel and the connectivity options here, so to start off with, you have got a front panel connection block. Nice to see one of those, a sort of more budget orientated case. So that just goes onto your front panel. So that's going to be for your power switch, your reset switch, hard drive LED, power LED. So yeah, that's all good. Then you have got a USB 3.0. This one's actually slightly unusual. Traditionally, when you'd see one of these, you'd just expect it to be two USB 3.0 Type A front panel connectors. They've done something to kind of, well, save money basically. So one of them is a Type A, but one of them is a Type C. So you've got two connections or two inputs on the top there for USB, one Type A, one Type C. Both of them are going to be basically at 5 gigabit per second. So not the fastest, but certainly it is handy to have a USB Type C for the more and more devices which are appearing on the market which actually do use that particular type of connectivity. You can, of course, if you want to, you can put adapters in, but it's nice that there's one of each there anyway. You've also got a PWM for the fans on the front, as we said, so all three fans daisy chained into one. And when it comes to actually providing any illumination for said fans, they've got the traditional kind of JST connectors, I think they're called, 3-pin connectors, which are very common with Phanteks type equipment. So those daisy chain together, and the last part of the cable then splits out into a 5-volt 3-pin addressable RGB, so keeping things nice and standard. Of course, if you've got some sort of Phanteks device or something which supports JSTs, you can just use the JST straight into it. I think it's called a JST. I might be wrong. If I am, let me know in the comments. I'm sure you will do. Other than that, we've also got the HD audio. So, yeah, that's fine. Nice long cable as well to route around to your motherboard. Loads of tie-down points, like we said. So, yeah, no problems there. When it comes to the power supply basement section, so yeah, loads and loads of room in there. It looks like there is actually a space in there for some sort of hard drive cage, which has been removed in this instance for this particular model. I'm guessing this chassis is also designed for another one of Phanteks cases, where perhaps they put more things inside. It's a slightly more premium feel to it. But yeah, you could possibly mangle a drive in there somehow, should you wish to. When it comes to the power supply basement, again, loads of room for pretty much any size power supply. No rubber pads or anything to support your power supply, which is a little bit of a shame, but not the end of the world. And when it comes to actually ventilating that power supply, pretty good stuff. You've got a nice solid basement. Again, you can see there kind of screw holes where you could potentially mount drives into. And also you've got a nice nylon mesh filter for the power supply. It's just a shame they didn't put one of these in the front as well for the fans, but I guess you can't have it all at this kind of price point. Although saying that, sometimes you can. The £55 price mark here in the UK is getting to be a rather competitive spot, with lots of cases that are on the market which suit different types of people. So whether it be a traditional ATX layout like this, or maybe a fish tank case like the one we saw previously, the CIT DS360, which is obviously a dual chamber look, but kind of very similar in what it can do. Quality wise as well, very similar. So yeah, it's nice to see that there's options appearing on the market at the lower price points, especially from also other players, CIT, Montech, etc, etc. So there are lots of choices out there, which is very nice to see. When it comes to the top panel, so we've got this magnetic mesh filter, which actually is quite difficult to get off. Nice thin magnets around the outside edge, and also you've got some nice ventilation there. Actually reminds me of an Ions case, this design. But anyway, so you've got the space on the top there for 3 120mm fans or a 360mm radiator, should you want to. And again, we've got our power button there, which also has a power LED around the outside edge, which I think is a nice touch. You've got your reset button. You've also got your USB 3.0 Type A, USB 3.0 Type C. Again, both of those 5 gigabit per second, so no fast ports on this. And you've got a combination headset mic jack, which, yeah, some people like those, some people don't. I prefer separate mic and headphone jacks, but let me know in the comments which you prefer. So to round up, pretty nice case. And also when it comes to included accessories, obviously we've already shown you the GPU mount, which is yeah, quite a nice thing to have these days, especially when you're possibly buying maybe secondhand GPUs, which might be starting to sag a little bit, as they tend to. You do actually get 2 PCI Express removable blanket plate slot covers there. Shame they just didn't include 7 of those straight out of the gate in the actual case, but I guess it's nice that they put 2 in there. 3 would have been ideal, but I guess not a lot of people use 3 slot cards. Maybe you will. Plenty of cable ties. You've got all the screws you could possibly need. Also, you've got some hard drive mounting grommets there, should you want to put a hard drive in. Although again, there isn't a caddy here as such, so I'm not entirely sure why they've included those or where you would mount a hard drive. I guess there is somewhere on the kind of on the back of here, but yeah, not in the kind of obvious places. Although saying that, actually the holes on the bottom might do the trick. We're not too bothered about hard drives. And also, obviously, as you can see, we've now got the fans connected. And this, I think, is one of the high points of the whole case. So apart from the look, which is obviously rather subjective, but when it comes to fans, I think having a fan which has power, good lighting, and also quiet are key things for me personally, as many of you will know. And these tick all of those boxes. So they're really nice looking fans. Arguably subjective, like you said. They are adjustable ARGB, so you can change the colors. I've just got it set to Rainbow Puke because it's connected to the PC behind, which is also running Rainbow Puke, so it kind of is what it is. But obviously you can change the colors to whatever you see fit through your motherboard or through a separate ARGB controller. But what really struck me is the noise levels. They are really, really quiet fans, and that is a very unusual thing to see these days on more budget orientated PC cases. If you get included fans, they generally tend to be, well, just not great. They're fine, but sometimes they have like ticking to them, or they've got terrible PWM range or whatever. But these actually tick all the boxes, like I've already said. They move a pretty decent amount of air, even though at the moment they're on about 25-30% RPM. There's a nice gentle breeze going through there. I think if I would be hypercritical, I would say it's a real shame that they didn't put one of these also in the rear as an exhaust, just to balance things out a little bit. I think that is going to be one thing, and trying to actually get another one of these fans may not be the easiest. They have got a product number on the back. I haven't looked to see if they're available separately. If they are, and they're Phanteks, realistically they're going to be costing somewhere, I'm guessing, between the sort of £8 and £10 mark, possibly slightly more. So it's just a little bit inconvenient, and then when you're spending an extra £10 on a case, then do you buy a different case, etc, etc. Again, I think this is going to be one which is going to be very popular with the PC flipping crowd. For the money, it's pretty decent. Again, it's a shame that you haven't got a fan on the back, but most PC flippers have got a spare ARGB fan knocking around somewhere, or just a basic one they can put in the back, so it isn't too much of a problem. There's plenty of room in here for decent sized motherboards, big graphics cards, and big CPU coolers, or water cooling if you wanted to. The build quality is a little bit on the flimsy side, especially around that PCI Express bracket on the back, which you've already kind of gone over, and it's a real shame that those are the fold out ones, not the removable ones and replaceable ones. That I feel is almost unforgivable at this price, but let me know what you think about it in the comments section. Have you got one of these? Are you very happy with it? Would you buy another one? I was contemplating actually buying a couple of these just to maybe keep one in stock for PC flip builds, but now after unboxing it, although the fans are excellent and the overall build quality is absolutely fine for the price point of PCs that I sell, I still think there might be something better on the market. But that's my opinion. Let me know what yours is in that comments section below. I think that is going to wrap this one up. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have, smash that like button. If you want to see more content like this on a daily basis, maybe consider hitting subscribe and also that chime notification. That way you'll be notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To. And hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.